Thank you for being here, Liza. And we're here for another episode of FintechTalks. Talks. Would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Liza Landsman. I am the CEO at The Point Sky. I spent most of my early career working in consumer finance and I would say all things fintech. So ranging from Citigroup to BlackRock to E-Trade to the long lamented flues.com. And then more lately, jet.com, Stash Financial, and a brief stint on the lovely but dark side of being a venture capitalist.
So in essence, if there's been a headline in our industry, chances are you might have worked on it or touched.
Hopefully I wasn't included in it, but I was working on the subject matter.
That's great. So can you talk a little bit about how you wound up at the Point Sky and sort of what drew you to this business?
I mean, the thing that is great about the Point Sky is that it is a brand that is loved by consumers
Yeah.
and revered by its partners because it has been the creator of the category. It's been around 15 years and it does something at its heart, which I think all great consumer facing organizations do, which is help consumers um, make order from chaos. If there is a space that is full of complexity, it is certainly the loyalty and reward space. And that intersection of credit and loyalty and travel is one where consumers want to find value, but they often struggle to do that on their own. And the Point Sky, since its inception, has really been trying to do that. And for me, as a person who grew up working in the credit card space, has worked on building a lot of great consumer brands, and is personally a travel junkie, this was just the bringing together of a lot of themes that I've always loved, all packaged in a wonderful consumer brand at a time when consumers really want to make every dollar go further.
That they do, and they want to make their dollar go further. But also, I think that at this moment, like there's so much uncertainty about trust, and so like
It's a great point. I mean, one of the reasons I really was excited about joining the organization and being part of the brand is that for more than a decade, the Point Sky has been on the side of the consumer and like super authentic in its voice and in its content around genuinely helping consumers find better outcomes. And that trust component is so important to that. I think, as is true in all things, both directly in the consumer finance space and adjacent to it. And I think we're in an adjacent space, but right at the crosshairs of it. Consumers want institutions and brands where they know they're getting real talk, real information. And I mean, I date myself a little bit when I say just the facts, ma'am. And I mean that in a completely gender neutral way. But that's what the Point Sky has always done. And I think our opportunity now is bringing that to even a bigger audience with more tools and more insight.
So when years ago when I first started following the Point Sky, I thought, oh, this is like an interesting personal website that someone has created, but it is like
That's how it started.
yeah, but it's become like it has become a cornerstone in the space, like, is there anything that transition from becoming sort of maybe a hobby into becoming a business?
Like Brian Kelly, who founded the company and literally and metaphorically is the Point Sky,
Yeah.
really started as something for himself. If you've ever heard the origin story, he worked in the people team for a large institution in the financial services space and traveled a lot for his work and was always interested in maximizing points. And because he traveled a lot, he was like, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to figure out how to like enhance my own life, the things I'm doing at work. Started sharing his notes with friends and colleagues, and a blog grew out of that, and then the New York Times covered it, and it blew up.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great lesson in how sometimes little things can change the trajectory because I think to him it was quite surprising that the audience like blew up the way it did. And what really struck him was like, this is not just applicable in my life. This like harvesting value, like getting a good value exchange for your loyalty toward brands is something that many people can relate to.
Yeah.
And I think what has happened over time is that one, as consumers have shifted to an experience economy more than objects economy, the value in travel, as an example, has accelerated, and so people really want to get those insights. But I also think for the team at the Point Sky, was the transition to thinking about itself as a platform to help people sort of extract more, get more juice from the squeeze across a very varied set of loyalty currencies versus thinking about themselves as travel only, but rather the intersection of travel and loyalty was part of that critical transition.
Okay. And now that it's you are the person leading it forward, taking it to that next level, is there anything about your personal journey that you think will be critical or helpful in taking it forward?
All companies that are really successful and highly performant stand on the shoulders of great teams and great founders, and certainly that is the case with us. I think the belief and trust in the brand is a critical element in our go forward success. I think sort of my background more in consumer finance and high growth tech startups really, I think, gives me a mindset to say, how do we take the amazing asset of the content and the trust and the platform and the voice we have and marry that with the right context, meaning the data around consumers, and utility, thinking about tools and technology to really dramatically expand the reach and impact of the platform we've built.
Yeah.
And so it's those last two pieces that I think since I've been working since the dawn of man, I've gotten to do that in a couple of places. So I get to bring the experience of having seen some of these movies before into this fantastic brand.
And you've seen these movies and you've made happy endings in the past.
Yeah, happy end.
One of the tools talked about quite a bit right now is AI.
Yeah.
And like, where does that fit into?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, I'm very impressed with us that we've been talking for almost 10 minutes and it's the first time we've mentioned it. I thought we would win on almost any online bingo for buzzwords. But look, I mean, I'm a big believer in applied AI as an enhancer of almost any consumer experience, both because it extends the reach of what you can do and certainly the speed of things you've done before. So I think it gives you both stuff you couldn't do and things that were inefficient before. I also think if you think about just the vast amount of content we produce, which is going to continue to be produced by humans, but if you think about all the different forms and formats that lots of different readers and consumers use, like, can one great writer now produce one piece of content but have it find life as an infographic, a video, audio, and do that much more effectively and efficiently than they could before? And again, this is about extending the reach of the platform without, and being able to do that in a scaled fashion without having to arithmetically scale the humans working on it, but you can actually exponentially scale your output because of those tools. And I think that is super interesting.
and we both have had a technical background, or more like how, and I've seen a lot of technologies that have not lived up to their promise, and some that have, and yeah, are there any things that like sort of help you get to a North Star of or get maybe an early indication of we're heading in the right direction or we're not heading in the right direction?
I mean, I think certainly we have all lived through the trough of disillusionment past technology crazes before. AI is, depending on your point of view, infusing or infecting almost everything we do. And for me, some of the early indicators are just are technologists being able to produce more high quality code more quickly now? The
Mhm.
answer is yes. Are like, I will use just myself as a dumb, simplistic example, but like every presentation I do now, like I have AI check for like my tonality, am I meeting our style guide, so I don't have to have like another human look at it. It's like having an editor in my pocket
Yeah.
whose grammar is better than mine, and like that's awesome for me because I am famously terrible speller and typist. But also things like allowing our creative teams to produce, as I mentioned, like different versions. And these to me are all like natural extensions of the work we're doing. And I think we're kind of just at the Wright brothers phase of this moment. There's a lot more transformative stuff ahead of us. Um, I don't know. I'm going to reject a little bit the premise of your question, which is like, how will we know we're moving in the right direction? Is that I think there are lots of right direction we could move in, and that's not unique to TPG.
Yeah.
I think for us, the North Star is you stay true to the trust you've built with the consumer, and you continue to fill that mission of being like the absolute best co-pilot in navigating the complexity of the loyalty landscape.
Yeah.
As long as we do that, like any tool that enables us to do that faster, better, in a more scaled fashion, like that's a pretty good gut check for me that we're moving in the right direction.
Fair enough. And to your point, like I was just reading something earlier today about someone saying that, don't think about AI strategy. It's AI that support your business strategy.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I think, what is the business strategy? And as we always have done, like, what are the things that are required for us to execute that strategy well? Sometimes it's tools, sometimes it's technology, sometimes it's capital, sometimes it's people, sometimes it's a change in the macro that you have no control over. And so I look at it that way. I think probably one of the differences, and we've had other moments. I mean, I remember years ago, Mary Meeker was ahead of everybody, but for like 7 or 8 years, every year was like the year of mobile.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like we have moved out of are we in the place where AI is going to make a difference in our daily lives it's just now like, how is it making a difference?
Yeah.
And I think some of those ways are explicit, but I think a lot of them are implicit as well.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And sort of going back to your Wright brothers comment, I feel like, at the time of Wright, it's good to be at Kitty Hawk.
Yeah.
And I'm biased, but I feel like Fintech Meetup is Kitty Hawk, or could be Kitty Hawk, or it's a place where a lot of
I feel like people out there are going to be Googling Kitty Hawk and the Wright brothers. Yeah. But yes, I agree with you.
So I would love to, we met at Fintech Meetup a couple of years ago, and just wanted to ask you about your experience there.
I mean, the thing that's great about Fintech Meetup is that it's just an incredibly target-rich environment. And what I mean when I say that is like the people you want to talk to about partnerships are there. The people you want to talk to about cutting-edge technology are there. The people who are your potential clients are there. People who you maybe want to buy things from are there. And it's just a great place that pulls together such a rich cross section of people in the industry all in one place. And for me, as we think about like our busy work life, it's a real efficiency play.
Yeah.
It had great food. So what makes you think they care about deeply?
That sounds great. And are there any pieces of advice you might have for someone planning to go to Fintech Meetup? Or obviously there's a lot of people there. So how do you manage?
Like I think for me, whenever I go to an event, but particularly something like Fintech Meetup, which has so many folks there, it come with some core objectives, either of people you want to meet or particular learning you want to get, so you can be focused in how you spend your time. And then I have another piece of advice, which is almost directly contradictory to that, which is embrace the serendipity.
Yep.
Some of the best discussions I've had there are because I stood behind someone in line for check-in and we started talking about what we did.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, that's super interesting. Like in my, pre-meeting research, I hadn't even thought about this as something I'd be excited to talk about here.
Yeah, well, that's great, and I think very helpful. To close
Also,
out.
hydrate.
Okay. Hydration is important. And to close out the discussion, I know that we worked at the same place before, and we actually, in fact, studied at the same institution, undergraduate institution. But let me go back to high school, and I remember like there were always like sort of the cool kids who were ahead of everybody else and doing interesting things. I always looked at you as like maybe one of the cool kids in high school.
How did I have you fooled?
And so like what as one of the cool kids, the cool techie kids. Well, look, what's sort of in your mind?
I feel like you need to get out more.
That's true.
No, look, if the question is kind of like, where do I think the puck is going right now? Like, I think we're going to find more and more really interesting, like, applied AI ways to think about work. One of the things that I've seen smart companies doing is thinking really differently about their workforce management. I was talking to a former colleague who's a very senior people leader at a super large organization, and the name of her title on her whole org has changed to be around AI enablement of their workforce, because they recognize that if everyone on their team isn't fluent and embracing and not defensive, they will be behind. And I think that to me is like a critical element of highly performant organizations. Because if I, sort of pull on your thread a little bit, it's great to have some of those cool kids who are leaning ahead, but the way you get like the best outcomes for your organization and your business is by having everyone have that extended reach. And that doesn't happen by accident. It only happens by design and intention.
I love that. We all need to be cool kids.
We all need to be cool kids.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Liza.
Thanks.